Hi there guys, so as we know, Anthony Joshua has some mandatories to deal with, Alexander Usyk and Kubrat Pulev, but it seems like Kubrat Pulev is going to be first. Now ultimately Anthony Joshua's preference would be to fight the winner of Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury, but that isn't going to be possible because they have a 2-fight deal it seems, so there will be a rematch for that, they will be running that straight back after, plus Anthony Joshua has his mandatories to get out of the way, and it looks like he's going to have to vacate a belt anyway. But it is the belief of Frank Warren, Tyson Fury's promoter, that Anthony Joshua should vacate all of his belts that he has mandatories for and wait for the big one. Not fight at all until he is able to fight Deontay Wilder or Tyson Fury. Now, this is a ridiculous plan in my opinion, especially coming from a promoter who is a Hall of Fame promoter, because that is a very bad idea. Because Anthony Joshua needs to keep his timing, his distance, everything in check by being in the ring. That's the only way he can keep those things, is by being in the ring with someone like Kubrat Pulev or Alexander Usyk to make sure that he is not inactive. That is the worst thing, in my opinion, for a fighter, is to be inactive. So Anthony Joshua needs to keep busy, whether it's mandatories or voluntaries. Because he can't just wait for Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury. What's he going to do? Just put his career on hold? Imagine if he'd have done that 2 years ago when Deontay Wilder was calling him out. Imagine if he said, I'm not fighting anyone until Deontay Wilder is ready to fight me. Then Anthony Joshua would have been inactive for, say, 2 years. So how can Anthony Joshua put his career on hold for them? He can't. He has to keep going, and he has to try and keep those belts if he can. Now, this is what Frank Warren had to say about Anthony Joshua's situation and his current set of mandatories. I'd let them strip me of my titles and not fight anyone until the big one. The one thing about Pulev is that he can whack. So for me, I would say, you know what? I want to fight the winner of our fight, Wilder versus Fury 2. Get all parties together, work something out. Maybe with some step aside where the mandatory opponents can be compensated for giving way, because that's what the public want. They want to see who's the number one. The number 3 and the number 4 fought in Saudi. The number 1 and number 2 are fighting on February 22nd. Now, I'm not going to be disrespectful to Frank Warren because I do have respect for him. He's a Hall of Fame promoter and he has done incredible things in the sport. But that statement is a little bit narrow-minded because Anthony Joshua is not number 3 in the world. He's not number 4 in the world. In my opinion, he is joint number 1 with Tyson Fury because I believe that Tyson Fury beat the man who beat the man, Vladimir Klitschko, and Anthony Joshua has the majority of the titles and he has the best resume out of all of them. So that's what I would say about that. I don't believe that Deontay Wilder is number 2, definitely not. He's number 3 in my opinion. And I don't think Andy Ruiz is even number 4. I think if you have to put anyone at number 4, it should be Dillian Whyte. Because Dillian Whyte is number 1 in the WBC. He has been number 1 in the WBO as well. Until Alexander Usyk moved up to heavyweight. Because obviously the WBO have their rule that someone who is champion in the lower weight class, when they move up, they become mandatory to that WBO belt. So that is why Dillian Whyte is no longer number 1 in the WBO. But I believe that Dillian Whyte is the number 1 challenger in the world. So ultimately, he should be the highest ranked fighter outside of the champions. But this business about Anthony Joshua dropping belts and stepping aside from Kubrat Pulev, I mean, Pulev can whack. I mean, when did that happen? Any heavyweight can whack. I mean, Kubrat Pulev is not known as a knockout artist. Yeah, he can punch a bit. Any heavyweight, as I said, can punch a bit. Anyone over 200 pounds is going to have heavy hands. But Kubrat Pulev is not a danger in that sense to Anthony Joshua. I mean, Joshua cannot underestimate him, but he's not some monster. He's a good fighter, he's a good boxer, technically sound, but I don't believe he possesses any threats to Anthony Joshua. And I think it's a good fight for Anthony Joshua because he's tall, rangy, has a good jab, and he moves quite well. So that would prepare him well for Tyson Fury. So it's a good fight for Anthony Joshua. There is no reason for him to be worried or try and step aside with that. And as I said, what Frank Warren is saying is very narrow-minded because if Anthony Joshua had put his career on hold to fight Deontay Wilder, then he would have been inactive for 2 years. So there's no way Anthony Joshua can say, I'm not fighting anyone until I get the winner of that fight. And what is Frank Warren thinking anyway? He's saying they can have some step-aside money. I mean, I thought there was a rematch clause for Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury, so Anthony Joshua would be waiting until 2021. That is when that fight would likely happen. So what's he supposed to do? Not fight in 2020? There is no way Anthony Joshua can do that. As I said, he needs to stay active. Anthony Joshua is still learning. I mean, he's not even at his best yet. He's a great fighter, unified heavyweight champion, just beat Andy Ruiz Jr. But he's not the finished article. Anthony Joshua has a lot left to learn. So he needs to have these fights, these learning fights, in order to develop as a fighter, because he's only had 24 fights. So realistically, he's only halfway through his career. So Anthony Joshua still has a lot left to prove and a lot left to learn in the boxing ring. And these fights with Alexander Usyk and Kubrat Pulev are world title fights, and they are good fights, good opponents, and good victories for Anthony Joshua, provided he is able to get the W. So there is no reason why Anthony Joshua should vacate both belts. There is no reason why he should vacate all of them. If I'm honest, I am fed up with the politics of boxing and all of the problems that these governing bodies create. So I do believe that the fight matters more than the belts. Being undisputed would be great. It would be a great achievement for Anthony Joshua. But I don't believe it's more important than the fight itself between Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury, or Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder. The belts don't matter as much as those fights. We just want to see those fights because we'll know who is the best. We don't necessarily need those belts on the line. We'll know who is the best after those fights. So if a belt has to be vacated for that to happen, then I believe it should. But I don't believe Anthony Joshua should just vacate a belt for no reason. If he can keep hold of them until he is able to get in the ring with either Tyson Fury or Deontay Wilder, then I believe he should. I don't think he should start vacating belts and waiting on Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder. Because if they have a 2-fight deal, then as I said, Anthony Joshua will be inactive for 2020. And it's ludicrous. Anthony Joshua needs to get back into the ring. He even said he'll probably be back out end of March. And I believe that is a good time for Anthony Joshua. It will probably be Kubrat Pulev. And I believe regardless of the WBO situation, I think Anthony Joshua will either vacate that and then fight in a unification fight against the winner of Joseph Parker and Alexander Usyk, or there will be a resolution where Anthony Joshua can keep hold of that WBO belt, fight the IBF mandatory Kubrat Pulev, and then go in to the Alexander Usyk fight, who would be mandatory. So I believe that Anthony Joshua's next 2 fights are sorted. It will be Kubrat Pulev next, I believe, and either Joseph Parker or Alexander Usyk, depending on what happens with that WBO belt. And then that will mean that Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder have their fights out of the way, and then they will be ready to fight. So Anthony Joshua will have his 2 fights with Kubrat Pulev, and probably Alexander Usyk, maybe Joseph Parker, and then he can go into that unification fight. And we can see who is the best. Anthony Joshua does not necessarily need to be inactive and wait on those 2, because he will be waiting for a very long time. He has been for Deontay Wilder, and Deontay Wilder never showed up and never wanted to fight Anthony Joshua. So as I said, if Anthony Joshua had waited on him and decided he wasn't going to fight until the big one with Deontay Wilder, then he would be a very inactive fighter, because Deontay Wilder hasn't wanted that fight. Guys, what are your thoughts on this? Frank Warren saying that Anthony Joshua should vacate and wait for the big one with the winner of Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury 2. Guys, drop your thoughts in the comments below, click the thumbs up and subscribe if you are new. Thanks guys.